hello again and welcome. My name is Jen Vale. I want to thank everyone for joining us here this evening. I'm an associate director with Civitas Strategies. I'm joined tonight by my coworker, Brooklyn. Brooklyn is going to be manning the question and answer channel or chat, the chat and the question and answer. So she will be looking at that throughout the evening. Just want to give you a quick understanding of who Civitas Strategies are, that we are holding this webinar this evening. We're a team of consultants, coaches, trainers. We're really proud to work with organizations nationwide that serve the needs of childcare providers. So we currently support childcare providers in 12 states. We help them strengthen their businesses, thereby improving the quality of their lives. So we're proud that you've decided to join us tonight. The goal tonight is to provide you with information that you'll find relevant and valuable. I do expect our presentation should last about 45 minutes. And once our slides are complete, we'll have a question and answer period. Because we expect a large amount of attendees this evening, we're going to have everyone place their questions in the chat. All right, you'll also, my teammate Brooklyn will end up reading me the questions, hopefully in the order in which they're received, if it's at all possible. She will jump over in case someone puts a question in the chat. I should have said, we're going to put the questions in the Q&A. Already made a mistake. So please, all questions in the Q&A. If something does end up in the chat, that's fine. Brooklyn will take a look at that as well. So she'll keep track of that throughout the evening. I am just going to let everyone know that if we don't have time to get to your question, because I don't know how many questions we're going to get, over 600 people actually registered to attend the webinar this evening. So I don't know what questions. It's a very straightforward webinar, so we may not have many questions, but if we get to a point where you don't believe that your question is going to be answered, or you have a lengthy question, Brooklyn has put in the chat, she has put the email address that you can email us at Civitas Strategies. It's team@civstrat.com. You'll see it in the chat. Brooklyn has put it there. So if you have lengthy questions, if we don't get to your question, why don't you just take a moment now to make sure that you have that email address recorded. That way you could reach out to one of us after the presentation, and we will be answering questions sent to that email in Spanish as well, not just in English. So, all right, well, today we're going to talk about beneficial ownership information, which is also known as BOI. It's a hot topic right now because it's new as of 2024, and there is some confusion, some apprehension surrounding BOI. Everything we review tonight, like I said, it's going to be very straightforward, very easy to understand. We feel confident that you'll come away with all the information that you need to successfully complete your own BOI reporting. So that's our goal there. Throughout the presentation, there are going to be QR codes for sites that are relevant to reporting your beneficial ownership information. Basically, on each slide we've included, you'll see there are QR codes, but Brooklyn is also putting all of the links in the chat. So you will want to refer to the chat if you don't have your phone out, if you don't like to use QR codes or anything of that nature. The links will also be in the chat. I will let you know also that this presentation in the next couple of days is going to be posted for a limited amount of time on the Civitas Strategies YouTube channel. At the very end of the presentation, we have a QR code there. Very easy to find us on YouTube, but there is a QR code that will take you right to our YouTube channel, and this presentation will be posted there. Not sure for how long. I do know that it is just going to be for a short period of time, but if you would like to go back and reference anything, by all means, please feel free within the next day or so to take a look at the presentation. All right, so we do have a sponsor this evening, and our sponsor is Playground. Playground is the modern childcare management software that eliminates all of the administrative busy work and delights families. A lot going on with Playground. They're the top-rated software. They include essential features such as billing, family engagement, digital paperwork, attendance, food program management, payroll, reporting, and more. They have been featured on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, and Playground works with over 100,000 satisfied childcare providers, teachers, and families. So Playground does partner with states and individual childcare centers, in-home providers, multi-site organizations, before and after school programs, and Montessori preschools. So you will see that there's a QR code here, and Brooklyn has put the link for that QR code also in the chat. We encourage you, please visit this link, visit the QR code, go see our friends at Playground and learn what it is that they have to offer you. And we really do want to thank the wonderful organization that Playground is for sponsoring and making it possible for us all to be here tonight. All right, before we get started, gotta read the disclaimer. So the information contained here has been prepared by Civitas Strategies and it is not intended to constitute legal, tax, or financial advice. The Civitas Strategies team has used reasonable efforts in collecting, preparing, and providing this information, but does not guarantee its accuracy, completeness, adequacy, or currency. The publication and distribution of this information are not intended to create, and receipt does not constitute an attorney-client or any other advisory relationship. Reproduction of this information is expressly prohibited, and only non-commercial uses of this work are permitted. All right, so why are we meeting today? So the U.S. Department of Treasury announced that they would now be requiring LLCs and corporations to report information on the owners of their companies. And when that came out, we at Civitas were immediately approached by concerned child care providers asking for guidance. And at Civitas Strategies, that's what we do, right? So we support child care providers such as yourselves in addressing topics where there's an immediate need for attention. Now, I have to say, reporting beneficial ownership is not difficult. It can easily be completed by business owners. There's an online portal that you use to report that's very, very easy to use. For the BOI, there is no fee to report if you're completing your own reporting. But one of the reasons why we wanted to meet with everyone here tonight is that you may be approached. There are many businesses that are approaching childcare providers offering to report BOI for a fee. And it can be substantial. We've heard fees ranging anywhere from $600 to $1,000 for a company to handle your reporting. So I'd just like you to keep in mind that with very few exceptions, there's little to no reason that a business should have to pay an individual or an organization to complete BOI reporting. Now, if you choose not to do it yourself and you'd like to, you feel comfortable, working with a company and having them do the reporting for you, just keep in mind that some of the information is somewhat personal or exclusive to your business, and you want to be very careful about the companies that you align yourself with and who you share your information with, right? Because this is not necessarily information that you want to send to just anybody. So make sure that the company that you share who is going to do your reporting, if you choose not to do it yourself, just make sure that your information is secure. So really, having said that, the goal of the evening is to present BOI in a way that helps our child care providers have to not pay outside entities for BOI reporting if they feel confident, right? So if you feel confident in completing the process yourself, no reason to go about paying anyone. The owner and CEO of Civitas Strategies, who is Gary Romano, and our president, Kelly Turner, are very, very passionate about providing support that can help childcare providers keep you from falling victim to any type of predatory practice. And it's our goal that you be able to retain your hard-earned profit whenever possible. All right, let's get in here tonight. So we're going to talk about beneficial ownership information. You'll hear me refer to it as BOI. We're going to discuss who has to report and who doesn't. We're going to go over the process of how you report BOI. And as I mentioned throughout the presentation, you're going to see QR codes that will direct you where you need to go to get additional help. And we'll have all of those websites in the chat. So we're going to really go in depth in a very simple, you're going to see, right? I said simple and straightforward. All right, so this is new as of 2024. So as of 2024, small businesses, which obviously include many childcare businesses that are structured as LLCs or corporations, are required to report beneficial ownership information to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. So you're going to see that referred to several times as FINCEN, FINCEN, which is a bureau of the U.S. Department of Treasury. So BOI reporting has been created to make it harder for companies to hide illegal transactions, such as money laundering or other fraudulent activities. If your business is required to report, FineSen refers to your business as a reporting company. So in regards to BOI and FineSen, whenever you see reporting company, they're referring to your business. Throughout this evening, I'm not going to refer to you as a reporting company. I'm going to refer to you as your business, but just know those two things are the same. Now, not all organizations and businesses are required to report. Later in the presentation, we'll review an easy flow chart that will help you determine if you may need to report. Under BOI reporting, beneficial owners and potentially individuals who are identified as company applicants, and we're going to go over what both of those are, must report basic identifying information. Once again, reporting is not a challenging task. What it comes down to is we need to help you, you're going to understand who the beneficial owners of your company are, and if you have company applicants. Once you've identified those people and gathered your information, it only takes a short period of time to complete the reporting. And again, FineSen there is no charge to or cost to report yourself. So, all right. So it did begin as of January 1st of 2024. Prior to January 1st, the reporting portal was not open, but by attending tonight, right, you're getting a jump start on the process. So you have joined this at exactly the right time. BOI is not just for childcare providers. It is estimated that there are over 30 million business entities that will be required to report. So I'm going to say it all evening. I apologize for being so repetitive, but it's simple. FineSen has an easy-to-use portal online, and that's where you enter the information, not difficult there. So just to show you how easy it is, right? What is the information that needs to be reported? So what you report first, and we'll go over what the screens are, but you report your basic business information, nothing crazy. And then this is the information that you report for each beneficial owner or each company applicant. Full legal name, date of birth, complete current residential address, a unique identifying number that would either be found on your passport or your state ID, a local ID, tribal ID, and then an image of that ID with that number. That's the information that you're reporting per beneficial owner or per company applicant. So, as we mentioned before, right, why did they decide to do this? There's a nationwide issue surrounding fake shell companies that were created to conduct illegal activity. We mentioned before, right? Money laundering, financing of terrorism, human and drug trafficking. The idea is that just keep in mind that as you are required to report, it doesn't mean that the Treasury believes that your business is guilty of any of these activities, but it's the only way for law enforcement to identify the companies who do conduct illegal activities. So what will happen is FineSen will take the information that you report and they compile a database and they share that with law enforcement agencies and financial institutions, and that helps them target the businesses that are conducting the illegal activities. So your information is not accessible to the public. So once you've reported, that information does not become part of public record. It's retained by FineSen and again shared with shared with authorities, basically law enforcement authorities and financial institutions. It's not part of public record. You may have heard that there are some states that were voting to have this information part of public record. And as far as we know right now, those bills have failed. So they have not gone through. You may have also heard that European countries, the owners of their businesses are required to report identifying information that they've had to do this for quite some time, and that information is part of public record. That's not the case in the US. All right, so this is not the information that you share will not be part of the public record. All right, and before we get started, I just want to get a couple of BOI rules out of the way. All right, is a sole proprietor required to report? No, sole proprietors do not need to report. Are nonprofit organizations required to report? Nope. 501c tax-exempt organizations are not required to report. Now, are single member LLCs required to report? And the answer is yes. So you're going to see later in the presentation that by being recognized as an LLC, even single member LLCs will be required to report. I have a really basic flow chart that will show you, to determine how you need to report. There'll be a couple of slides that address the fact that there are 23 types of businesses that have been identified as not needing to report. My guess is that the majority of people joining us here this evening, if you're not a sole proprietor or a nonprofit tax-exempt organization, chances are you are going to have to report. So just to kind of set that expectation. So who is a beneficial owner? So this is crucial. This is the foundation of everything, right? You must identify at least one beneficial owner in your company. Now, who is a beneficial owner? Every business will have at least one beneficial owner. It's an individual who has substantial control of a company or owns at least 25% of the business. So an individual has substantial control of the business if they meet one of the following criteria, excuse me. They're senior officers such as a CFO, CEO, COO, they're a president. If they have the authority to remove any senior officer or the majority of the board of directors, or, and this is a key definition, if they are an important decision maker who directs the business, finances, or its structure. All right. Now, any individual who owns at least 25% of the business, even if you don't have any of those titles, you are a beneficial owner. Important to remember that any business can have more than one beneficial owner, and all of the qualifying beneficial owners must report. So there's no limit to the amount of beneficial owners that report. You can have as many as exist within your company, but every company will have at least one beneficial owner. That's somebody who substantially controls the company, right? Every company has someone. If a company is not exempt, you have a beneficial owner. Now, if the beneficial owner happens to be a minor child, the reporting company then reports the reporting company / business then reports the information of the parent or the legal guardian of the child. So now, because this is so key, right? Just to reiterate, and I repeat it just because it's very important, and it's a question that everyone is going around. If you hold any of the following titles on this slide, or you have at least 25% ownership in a business, if you make any crucial financial decisions, if you have substantial influence over important decisions, you are a beneficial owner. So I'd like you to stop and think about your businesses and who in that business is a beneficial owner. Very, very important, right? If you don't have one of these titles and you own at least 25% of your business, you are still a beneficial owner. So you don't have to have one of those titles, right? But again, a senior officer, CFO, CEO, COO, president, general counsel, if you could remove a senior officer or the substantial member of the board of directors, a substantial amount of the board of directors, if you're an important decision maker, right? If you direct the business, finances, corporate structure, or if you own at least 25% of the business, you are a beneficial owner. So let's look at two examples, really, really simple examples here. But so in our example number one, ABC Childcare is an LLC. 3 individuals own this business. Juan has 50% membership. membership, sorry. One has 50% ownership. His sisters, Maria and Estelle, each have 25% ownership. The family also employs Anita, so she's the president of the company. She does not have any ownership, but she does make major decisions within the business. There's the key, right? So in this example, Juan, Maria, Estelle, and Anita are each considered beneficial owners. Due to her title and responsibilities, Anita qualifies even though she holds no ownership. So think about that example when compared to your own business. And you can start to think about who beneficial ownership, who it relates to and who would have to report, right? So ownership becomes a little bit of a, that's a little bit of an odd word, because in this instance, Anita has to report even though she's not an owner. So beneficial ownership, we have to understand that ownership for reporting purposes is going to apply to anyone making major decisions or who holds some of those titles that we discussed before. Now, in this example number 2, Happy Kids is an S corporation, right? So we had an LLC. We know LLCs need to report. Here we have an S corporation. Jill and Susan, they each own 50% of the business, and they have a longtime manager, Roger. Roger can hire employees, but he doesn't hire executives. He's allowed to make purchases up to $2,500 without prior permission. So Roger doesn't have one of those titles, and he doesn't own the business. So Jill and Susan must report as beneficial owners. Based on this definition, Roger does not report because we don't see that he exercises any substantial control in his position, right? So in this instance, only Jill and Susan would be the beneficial owners. Now, beneficial owners and management are not necessarily the same, but if Roger had ownership of at least 20% in that business, even though he's their longtime manager, if he did own 25% or more of the business, he would be considered a beneficial owner. All right, so basically, in addition to beneficial owners, who else in the business needs to report? Well, if your business was created on or after January 1st, 2024, so starting the beginning of this month, going forward, so your new business, if you are a new business, then you're also required to submit information on a company applicant, right? So if your company was created before January 1st, 2024, right, so before this year, you don't have to report a company applicant. Still have to report a beneficial owner or beneficial owners, but not a company applicant. So who is a company applicant? Well, as a definition, a company applicant is someone who files directly for the business or has the primary responsibility in filing the document that registers or created the business. All right, so an example of a company applicant would be if the spouse of a business owner, if the spouse of a business owner filed all the documents that created the company, that spouse is a company applicant and their information would have to be reported. If an attorney filed all of the documents that created a company, they would be considered a company applicant. So remember, this is only for businesses that were created on or after January 1st, 2024. So if you're thinking of starting a business this year going forward, just keep in mind, not only once you start the business are you going to be reporting beneficial ownership, but you'll also be reporting company applicants. So just kind of keep that in mind there. Now, you may have more than one LLC or corporation, and if that's the case, each of your businesses has to report. They have to report individually, even if they're small. So if you've created a small LLC for something like your Etsy business or some type of similar example, you will be required to report beneficial ownership on that business as well on a separate report. Now, there is a way to make that a little easier, right? So if you do own multiple businesses, you can actually apply for what's known as a FindCEN identifier. So that identifier allows you to basically, you'll receive an identifying number that's issued by FindCEN, and then you would enter that number on all of these different multiple reports rather than having to enter the information, all of the identifying information all over again. So you apply When you apply for the identifier on the website, you get the number immediately. So it's not like you're waiting to receive that number. And then basically also when you go to apply, when you go to report your beneficial ownership, you'll see on the portal, there's actually a box that you can check off to ask for an identifier for a FineSen identifier. So very, very easy to get. So it can make it very easy for you if you have multiple companies, but also if you intend on making changes to your beneficial owners. So if the ownership is going to change, or if any of that information that we showed that you need, and I'll repeat that information, but if any of the reporting information would happen to change, if you had a FineSen identifier, you would just be able to enter that number rather than have to update everything. Yes, you're updating your information on your FineSen identifier, but it means you're updating it in one place and not difficult. So very, very, very positive reason for businesses, anyone that has multiple businesses, to get a FineSen identifier. You'll see here on the screen, I do have a QR code. That's how you can create an account with the U.S. Department of the Treasury, therefore applying for a FineSen identifier. So we do have that QR code there. Brooklyn has also put the link in the chat. I'll give it a couple seconds here to see if anybody would like to use their phone to use this QR code. It'll take you to the Department of the Treasury. So just give it a second. And again, everything will be, all of these links are in the chat as well. So, all right, we'll move on there. And I just want to just make a note. I do see that people are raising their hand. All questions, please put in the Q&A or put in the chat. Any questions you have, and at the end of the presentation, Brooklyn will be going through there. Based on the amount of participation we have this evening, I don't think I'm going to be able to take people off of mute. I will say once again, the email address, if you would like to reach out to us after the meeting, is team@civstrat, C-I-V as in Victor, strat, S-T-R-A-T.com. So even right now, if you're thinking that you have a question that's a little more in depth, consider please emailing us, and we will look at your questions and return with an answer for you. And we are doing that for our Spanish-speaking providers as well. All right, so this is the question on everybody's mind, right? Are there businesses that don't have to report BOI? So to determine if your childcare business has to report to FineSen, basically you would meet the criteria as a reporting company. And in general, if your business is an LLC, a corporation, was created under the U.S. Secretary of State, was created by an Indian tribe, you most likely will have to file BOI. So just keep that in mind. However, if you want to look, there are 23 types of entities that are exempt from filing BOI. So you could look at that list, and it is on, you'll see later, we have the QR code there for our for the BOI for FineSen's website, where you can see actually the whole list. There's an FAQ, and you can see the list of 23 different types of businesses that are exempt. Included in that are the nonprofits, tax-exempt entities, things like banks, financial institutions happen to be, based on the very nature of their structure, they do not have to report BOI. There is also a situation where businesses that have more than $5 million in gross receipts with more than 20 full-time employees, they're an example of who does not have to report. But when you go to the BOI FineSen website, you will see the list of all 23 types of organizations, I should say, that don't have to report BOI information there. I will say that this information is only for businesses that shown here. The information is only for businesses and organizations that are formed under U.S. laws, and it does not apply to companies created under the laws of a foreign company. For more information on foreign company reporting, please visit the FineSen website, which again, we will have the QR code later in the presentation. and their link is in the chat there. Now I have this very simple flow chart, and I am going to apologize upfront to our Spanish speaking providers in the fact that I did not realize that the Spanish portion of the slide was not translated. So let's walk through for the benefit of our Spanish speaking providers, right? So the first question there in this flow chart, is your business any of the following? LLC, corporation, or was created under the Secretary of State or an Indian tribe? If the answer is yes, you probably do. You may need to report your BOI, your beneficial ownership information. Now, if your answer there was no, are you a sole proprietor, a nonprofit organization, or a tax-exempt entity? If your answer is yes, you are not required to report BOI. Now, if your answer is no there, you have to determine what type of business structure you are. We pretty much covered it, right, in that we have LLCs, corporations, the businesses created under Secretary of State or an Indian tribe. If you get to this point in the flow chart, you have to determine what structure your business is. And you'll see my flow chart takes you right back to the very beginning, because we've got to start back at that question, what type of organization is your business? And again, I apologize to our Spanish speaking providers. If they would like to email and see this in Spanish, I certainly can provide it after the presentation in the next couple of days. So I apologize for that. All right. So are there any other types of businesses, right? We mentioned in the previous slide, 23 types of businesses that FinCEN has announced do not need to report. So it's businesses such as banks, investment companies, insurance companies, as we said, right? Nonprofits, religious organizations, tax-exempt entities. And if the business, I'll just say, if the business is owned by a minor child, you still have to report beneficial ownership, but that information is going to be from the child, the minor child's parent or their legal guardian. All right. Now, we mentioned it before about large companies, right? So included in that FinCEN list are large companies that meet the following requirements. And you would have to meet every one of these requirements to then not have to report. So it's not one or the other, it is every single requirement here. Your business would then be allowed to not report beneficial ownership. However, if any of those circumstances were to change, including revenue, the business would then be required to report. So anything changes with a large company and these requirements are not met, the company then must report. So what are those criteria? If you employ more than 20 full-time employees in the United States, a full-time employee for the purpose of beneficial ownership reporting is defined as an employee that works an average of 30 hours per week or more. You must operate a physical office within the United States. You have to have filed federal income tax demonstrating more than $5 million in gross receipts, net of returns and allowances, and you will have filed the entity's IRS form of an 1120, a consolidated IRS form of an 1120, an 1120S, the IRS form 1065, or any other applicable IRS form. So if a business is to initially qualify for a large business as not needing to report, you have to meet every one of those requirements to then be exempt from reporting. Any of those things change, you then have to start reporting beneficial owners as well. So I wanted to bring up, there's an additional step for businesses that are registered in New York State. So as of 2024, New York State has its own BOI for LLCs, not corporations, not limited partnerships. And this is just for New York State. So basically, you're reporting the BOI to FinCEN if you're an LLC, but now you're also going to report to the state of New York, and it's under the New York Transparency Act, which is known as the LTA, excuse me, I get my letters right, NYLTA. So the rules for this reporting for New York State can be different from the FinCEN BOI reporting, and they actually LLCs have to file, it's called the biennial statement that you're filing every 2 years, and there's a $9 fee for the state of New York. The state of New York has created an FAQ site. The link that you see here is to file. So I can tell you that you can find information on the New York site just by Googling biennial. You can basically put in NYLTA biennial statement, and it'll take you to a page where you can see the FAQ, or if you're just ready to file and jump on in, the QR code here is for the link for filing. So we'll take a moment here. Again, this link is being put in the chat. So feel free to break out your phone, and if you're a New York State business, registered, created within New York State, by all means, feel free to use the QR code. Just so you know, California did have, or may right now have legislation to enact a statewide BOI. Other states may follow suit. So what I would recommend is that you keep informed of the possibility if your state is going to enact a BOI by checking your state's Department of State website. So if you hear anything's buzzing, it is possible that other states are going to join New York State in having to report. All right, so we went over this again, but now we know who has to report, right? So let's take a look at the information that you have to report. So as a reporting company, as your business, you must provide your company's full legal name, any trade name or DBA, the complete business address, the jurisdiction of formation or registration, or a taxpayer identifier, or I should say, and taxpayer identification number, right? So a TIN or an EIN. Now, beneficial owners and company applicants, you report full legal name, date of birth, complete residential address, and the unique identifying number from an acceptable identification document, which could be a passport, state driver's license, state identification document, any identification document issued by a local government if it has an ID number for you, or a tribal identifying document there. One thing you have to keep in mind is that you are going to be uploading a copy of your identifying document, and it actually can be a photograph. It doesn't need to be a scan. So that's what makes it even easier. You don't have to scan your documents. You can take a picture and upload it to the portal. So it's very, very easy to submit the identifying documents necessary for your BOI reporting. Not difficult to do at all. So, all right, I just have a couple of little helpful tips here, right? So BOI reporting is compatible with smartphones. It's compatible with tablets. Now, I do think that maybe it'll be a little difficult to type in everything on a smartphone, but some people are probably better at that than I am. It is very, very easy to use with a tablet. Super, super, super easy. What you'll want to do is take a photo of your identifying document before you begin the report, right? Make it very, very easy to upload that particular picture of your document. If you're on your PC, your laptop, or anything like that, and you take the picture with your phone, go ahead and email it to yourself, use a flash drive, but make sure that it's on the computer that you're going to be using for your beneficial ownership reporting. And then you'll just attach in the portal, you can just attach that photo. Super easy to do. Honestly, you can expect the filing to take you for a single owner between 15 and 30 minutes. Of course, it depends on the amount of beneficial owners, how long it's going to take you. It depends upon the amount of company applicants you have. If you've just started a brand new business this year, or as you start businesses going into the future there. And just just a reminder that if you have more than one company, or you think things are going to change in the future, having a FineSend identifier number will make reporting and updating easier. And again, very, very easy to get that. So, all right, so I completed the beneficial ownership report for a small LLC. Only had one beneficial owner, but it took me less than 10 minutes. And I'm no genius, I can tell you that. So how easy is it? All right, the first screen, it asks, is this an initial report? Are you correcting a prior report, or are you updating a report? gives you the options to choose that. Second screen becomes part one. And part one is just that reporting company information, right? So we said legal business name, DBAs, business address, EIN and TIN numbers, jurisdiction, where was the business created, basically. If you get to part two, that would only apply to new businesses that need to enter company applicant information. So there's actually a little box at the top. And if you say that you are an existing reporting company and not new as of 2024, you check that box and the rest of part two no longer applies. I think if I recall correctly, the boxes still remain. Maybe they're grayed out, but just know if you're not a brand new business, part two of the portal is not going to apply to you. Part three, that's where you enter the beneficial ownership information for each beneficial owner, and it's where you upload the picture. All right. There's a little section here, a little silly, right? You have to prove you're not a robot. We're all familiar with CAPTCHA. We prove we're not a robot. We hit submit. You actually you hit finish, and that means that your filing is successful. You get a transcript, you print it out, and you keep a copy for your records. That's how the portal works. You can also download a PDF, fill out the PDF, attach your identifying document, and upload the PDF. I'll just tell you what happened to me when I went to do it. I have a professional version of Adobe. And yet when I went to download, because I wanted to try everything every which way, when I went to download the PDF, it told me I needed to have Adobe 8 or higher. Well, I have a professional version of Adobe. I have way higher than Adobe 8. And yet, for whatever reason, it could not recognize that I had that version of Adobe. That may be different for you. If you prefer to print something out on a PDF, upload it, by all means, there's no reason not to. I just found the portal to be extremely, extremely easy. I'm not kidding when I tell you it was 10 minutes, under 10 minutes. It was so simple. You'll want to go back and double check yourself, right? Because this reporting is very, very important, right? We know that. We know now that it's required. So I went back a few times. I double checked names and identification numbers and made sure, that everything was there, made sure that my photo uploaded, and it still only took me 10 minutes to do. Yes, it was only one beneficial owner, but super, super easy. There weren't a lot of DBA. There was no DBA or anything of that nature, but just think, if you're only entering that kind of information, how long could it take? Companies are charging you $600 to $1,000 for that. How crazy is that? Now, if you have 500 beneficial owners, it's probably worth the investment. But most childcare businesses do not have that many beneficial owners. So now what happens though if you're reporting, if your information changes, right? So it's very, very important that you do report any changes within 30 days of the change having taken place. So if there's a change or an addition of a beneficial owner, if the beneficial owner moves, because remember we have to put the residential address there, if an identifying document expires, you have to make that change you have to report that change within 30 days. So I'm going to suggest, hey, set up a system, a calendar alert that reminds you of when an identifying document is going to expire. The other thing I would do is I would look for an identifying document. Remember, we said state IDs, driver's licenses, passports, tribal IDs, and what I would look for is I would look for the document that has the longest expiration date, right? So passports, they expire exactly 10 years from the date they're issued. Driver's license expiration changes from state to state. But if I had my driver's license and it expired in 2 years and my passport doesn't expire for 5 years, I'm going to use my passport, right? So you really want to kind of look at those expiration dates. So that way you have longer before you have to fill out the change, and you fill out the change on the same portal. Like I said, there's a box at the very top, the first screen that says, hey, is this new? Are you making a change or are you correcting an error? And you check the box and then it walks you through the rest of the way. But I would be looking for the document, the identifying document that has the longest expiration date. And I also probably would be going to my phone if if everything expired in 2 years, I'd be going into my phone. We know we can go into calendars so far into the future. I'd go in there and I'd make a reminder for myself in my calendar. Hey, in 2 years in January, my driver's license expires. Better remember to update my BOI. I have no idea if FineSend is going to reach out to anybody when their documents expire. My guess is no, that this is entirely on the business owner. I think we should all assume that it is entirely on the business owner and not wait for someone to contact us. I would not do that, especially since changes need to be reported within 30 days. So you would have to report within 30 days of one of those documents expiring. All right, so when are you required to report? All right, super easy. So if the business started, was created, was registered prior to January 1st, 2024, you have until January 1st, 2025 to report BOI. So if you're an existing business before this month, you have all of 2024 to report. How fantastic is that? Now, if your business is new business or thinking of creating a new business, if you're created on or after January 1st, 2024, before January 1st, 2025, you have 90 days after receiving the actual public notice of your company's creation or registration, right? So 90 days. So if I open a business this year, I have 90 days to report my beneficial ownership information. Now, if I don't open my business this year, but I open my business next year, on or after January 1st, 2025, you only have 30 days from the actual or public notice that the company's creation or registration. So just kind of keep in mind also, that FineSend did not accept any reports prior to January 1st. So you're not late in reporting. The perfect time to do your reporting. I'd say do it sooner rather than later, but just know if things come up, you do have until the end of this year since you were an existing business. New business, 90 days from the day that your business was created for 2024. All right. And then, right, we talked about how do you report? So it's very simple to report. I'm not kidding you, not making it sound easier than it actually is. You're going to see here, I have a QR code. This is the BOI e-filing system on finesend.gov's website. So here is a QR code. The link is in the chat there. So basically you can use the portal or you can download that PDF. I found it so easy to use the portal. I don't know if anybody would want to do that, but perhaps I think the benefit of using the PDF is that I guess if you knew it was going to take you a long time, if you thought you were going to need to stop in the middle of it, I could see using the PDF then. Just remember, you have to have Adobe 8 or higher, and hopefully it will acknowledge your version of Adobe. It did not acknowledge mine there. So you basically, you submit everything through either this portal or you upload that PDF back to the website. So go to this, use this QR code, you go to the site. Make sure you have all your information on hand before you start, right? So we want to have our identifying information. If I'm entering for beneficial owners other than myself, I want to make sure, right, that I have the correct spelling of their name, their home address. Hey, if you have a driver's license, you have everything right there. I'd be gathering all of that, have everything laid out, and then able to enter it extremely easy. So get all your information together before you go into the portal. As it becomes refined, maybe FineSend will make some changes. So you can also go to the FineSend website. We'll have those links and those FAQs. The links are already in the chat. I'm sorry, I said FAQ. The QR codes will show you those in a moment. But so you may want to just continue to see if there are any updates, but all the information that we're reporting, I researched and double checked it as of this week. So there had been little changes before that, but I was able to document all of it this week. So, all right. One thing I would like to do for our Spanish-speaking providers is, unfortunately, with the BOI filing portal site, it can be difficult to find and this isn't obviously just for Spanish-speaking providers, but it can be very difficult to find language accessibility on the BOI site. All right, so if you're familiar with the translation option in Google Chrome, it works very well. Many different languages. So if there's something that you feel more comfortable, if you know someone who owns a business that does not, that English, they would prefer to file in a language see everything in a language other than English, using the Google Chrome translation option is the easiest way to do it. All you do is you have to use the Google Chrome browser, right? I think almost all of us have access to the Google Chrome browser. You're going to use that QR code or the link to go to the BOI filing site. And then when you're in the Chrome browser, you're on that site, on the top right-hand side, there are 3 dots. Click on those dots, you scroll down to the translate option, you click on translate, and then you choose the language that you want to have translated. I here on the screen mentioned Spanish, right? But then all of the text for all of the screens on the BOI filing site are then in the language that you choose. I wish it was a little easier. I wish there was a simple drop down on the site and you're able to easily choose a language, but we have to go with the flow. And in this instance, we have to use the easiest way to do this would be the Google Chrome browser. However, you may know of another way that's easy to translate web pages. I did this myself just to see, and it worked beautifully. So and worked for the entire process, not just, I didn't have to do it screen by screen. Translated everything. Since English is my primary language and I don't speak another language, I wasn't familiar with the translate option in the Google Chrome browser. So in Google Chrome, it was new to me, but I was impressed by how well it worked. All right, so what happens next, okay? So once you've completed the reporting, you do not need to take any additional action unless notified by FineSend or you have changes. There's no annual reporting requirement, but when you have an update, you have to report that update as needed. Any changes to the BOI report, if you see an inaccuracy, you have to use the portal and you'll have to make that change to your information within 30 days of the change occurring. But this is not something that you're going to be having to do federally, having to do every single year, or FineSend as of right now is saying that do this once, and until a change happens, you do not have to register a beneficial owner again. Changes, absolutely. Everything stays the same. Status, we're good. Of course, as I mentioned before, that is different for New York State. Looks like it's called biennial filing, and it does look as though you are going to have to report every 2 years. So just keep that in mind for my folks from New York State. All right, now, what if I don't file BOI within the required time period? So FineSend has given us the following information if you do not file within required time period. All right, so the willful failure to report or complete updated beneficial ownership information to FineSend, or the willful provision of an attempt to provide false or fraudulent beneficial ownership information may result in a civil or criminal penalty, including civil penalties of up to $500 for each day that the violation continues, criminal penalties including imprisonment for up to 2 years, and/or a fine of up to $10,000. It does say that senior owners of an entity that fails to file a required BOI report may be held accountable for that failure. Now, publicly, FineSend has stated that it intends to prioritize education and outreach over enforcement and the collection of those penalties, but I am going to recommend that you take the penalties very seriously and that you take the reporting very seriously, right? Why mess around? Who wants to do that? It's not difficult to do, right? Why would we mess around with that? So, all right, you're going to see that FineSend is conducting educational campaigns to help reporting companies understand any new reporting requirements. FindSend has a site where you can sign up to receive email updates. FAQs, here you'll see here on the screen, this is where you can go for the FAQs. There is also a small entity compliance guide. You'll see that I have the QR code there. Those links are in the chat, or in the chat and Q&A confused. So I'm going to leave this up for a few minutes, and then we're going to go through, and Brooklyn will let me know if we have any questions that I can answer. So I think probably what you've taken away from this, right? And I do have some information, just reminders about our sponsor Playground after the fact. I have the QR code after our questions for the Tom Copeland site that we are very happy to have. We are now the stewards of all of Tom Copeland's legacy, and we continue to update. So I do have a QR code for that, as well as the QR code for our YouTube channel. So we do have some information following the question slide, but I am going to click on the questions there, and I'm going to ask Brooklyn to please come off mute and read me some questions. Let's see how we can help folks that are attending tonight. And we're running over on time. I apologize. Of course we are. I can talk like nobody's business. All right, Brooklyn, what do we have, my friend?
So the first one we have is, what if your LLC is owned by two people? Do you report everything equally or collectively together?
So you basically will file one report listing each beneficial owner. So it is only one report. So both owners are reported at the same time, not two separate reports. And you'll see if you use the portal, you'll see that you have the opportunity to enter as many beneficial owners as you need to. The PDF also, you have the opportunity to add multiple beneficial owners, one report, including all of the beneficial owners.
What if you were doing your business as a DBA?
So you still, if you're an LLC or a corporation, when you do your reporting, you have to disclose in the very first part of that report, you have to list the business name and the DBA. So you're going to list the legal business name as well as the DBA. And that's in that first section where you report all of your business information. So you do have to acknowledge any DBAs for your business.
The next is, it says I already have an account. Can I use that account to obtain an identifier?
I believe so. So if you already have an account with the Treasury, what I would do is I would actually jump over to the portal where it asks if you want to apply. And my understanding, if someone explained it to me correctly, is you will check that box. You'll then be able to put in your account information and generate the FindSend identifier from there. So not difficult if you already have that account with the Treasury, going to be just even easier to get your FindSend identifier.
If I'm a sole proprietor but change to an LLC, do we have to file?
Yes, so once you change your business formation structure, so as soon as you switch over to an LLC, even though you may just be a single member LLC, at that point, you would file your beneficial ownership information, all right? You remain a sole proprietor. This isn't a good reason to just remain a sole proprietor, although there are benefits to all business structures. But if you do become an LLC, and there are many great reasons to become an LLC, if you do, then yes, you would start to report your beneficial ownership as you become that LLC.
What if you have two separate LLC numbers, but one is dormant or has nothing done with it? Do you still have to file for both LLCs?
So my understanding is that unless it has been, I'm going to probably use the wrong word here, unless it has been designated as inactive. So if you have inactivated an LLC, no longer active by formal process, you would not be reporting beneficial ownership. If it is just inactive but still exists, you have to report beneficial ownership.
If you have two LLCs and use the FICAN identifier, can you change the information on one and not the other if it does not apply to that one?
Well, I believe that the identifier is specific to the beneficial owner. So it would go to reason that you can use that same financial identifying number across multiple LLCs as well, right? So if you have multiple businesses, you would just basically be using, that's why I say if you have multiple businesses, it's a really smart to get a FineSen identifier, because then you basically enter all the information once, and then you're just putting in that identifying number as you go through reporting for your individual businesses.
I'm starting a women's group. We will be nonprofit. Do we need to report?
Nope. So nonprofits do not need to report. So if you are a 501c tax exempt entity, nonprofit, you would not need to report.
Do I need to report as a sole proprietor?
Nope. So I'm happy to say that sole proprietors do not need to report.
I'm a sole proprietor for a family daycare, and I just registered as an LLC. Am I required to report?
Yep, so now you're going to report. You're going to do beneficial ownership reporting. Again, congratulations on becoming an LLC. There are many benefits to doing so. And yep, now you have to do beneficial ownership reporting, but super easy. So not a problem. But yes, now that you've moved your corporate structure, your business structure from sole proprietor to LLC, you will need to report.
I just started an LLC on the 1st of this year. Do we still have to do a report for this year?
So you have to do the report. You have to do it within 90 days of having started that company, and you have to include any company applicants. So if you started that business this year going forward, even though it was January 1st, you have to report. You only have 90 days to report, and you have to include any company applicants. And what did we say was a company applicant? Anybody that helped you file the registration for that business. So just keep that in mind. So congratulations on your new business. I think that's fantastic. Well, you're going to have to report your beneficial ownership a little sooner, and you will have to take company applicants into account.
I'm expecting to change my maiden name to my married name. Should I get the FineSen identifier now?
I would get the FineSen identifier now. Now you are going to have to update that, but it will be easier to just update the FineSen identifier for anything going forward. Do you have to know? No one has to get a FineSen identifier. It is not a requirement. And then you would just go and make that change as the beneficial owner, having changed your name. I think there's a lot of positive things going into the future for having the FineSen identifier. I believe you'll still have to change your name with the FineSen identifier, but if you think about things that could change over the year, especially if you're over the years, you're getting married, you may change your home address, things of that nature. When your document expires, there are good reasons to have the FineSen identifier, but it's not required. My guess is you're still going to have to update the change of name.
If I own 39% of two companies, can I still apply for the FineSen identifier?
As far as I know, yeah. So, and again, that FineSen identifier will go across all companies, right? It'd be basically your personal identification number. So, yes, you could.
If you plan to start another business, DBA, a different name later this year, should I go ahead and do a FineSen number so I don't have to keep doing separate reporting?
I would suggest it. Yeah, it sounds like from what we've understood is that, and remember, this is just new as of January, but all of the research that I've done is that a FineSen identifier number really can just help you avoid some hassles in the future and just make things easier. And especially if you have multiple businesses, and because it's free to get, it's easy to get, there's no reason not to get that number if you choose to. You don't have to, but it makes sense to save yourself some hassle down the road.
If you're an LLC doing business with an S corp, do we need to file with New York State?
So if you are an LLC and you're filing your taxes as an S corp, you are still an LLC, even though you're electing to file taxes as an S corp. As an LLC, you will have to still report for the New York State. If you became an S corp, then you would no longer be reporting in New York State. But it's the LLC designation of your business formation that triggers the New York State reporting requirement, not how you file your taxes.
If you are not new, can you just proceed to part 3?
So you're still gonna have to fill out part 1, but what's great is that there's a little box that you check that says you're not new. And you still see part 2, but you're able to just jump past it. So there's nothing to fill out there. And I say that, letting everybody know that, because I got confused at first and it bounced me out. I don't know what I thought. I got to part 2. I made a mistake. I got to part 2. It looked to me like there was still information that I needed to fill out. I filled it out. And it told me, hey, you said you were an existing company. Why are you filling this out? I came to my senses, and it still took under 10 minutes. So you will just be able to bypass part 2.
Is there a deadline to complete this reporting?
Yep. So if we are an existing company prior to January 1st, so if we existed LLC or corporation before January 1st, we've got all of this year, so up to December 31st, 2024, to report. We've got time. Again, if you're a new business this year, 90 days from the day that your business was reported as being public record as being created. And if you open in 2025, you start your new business in 2025, you'll only have 30 days from the time that you start that business.
Do we have to report every year or only once?
Only once, and only when you have changes. Now that is different for New York State. Looks like it's every 2 years in New York State, but basically this is not an annual filing requirement. What I am suggesting is that you make notation of when your identifying documents expire, because that's when you're going to have to make the changes. And my guess is FineSend's not sending us a little reminder card in the mail like our dentist does when we're due for an appointment. I think you're going to want to make a notation of when your documents expire.
Does it matter if I file the BOI before or after filing my taxes?
A BOI will have nothing to do with your taxes. All right, so it does not do it tonight, do it tomorrow. You haven't filed your 2023 taxes yet. Doesn't make a difference. File the BOI as soon as you feel comfortable doing so.
What if the business was started before January 1st of 2024 and may close before the end of 2024?
I would be filing. And the reason is that until the business is registered as inactive, you still must file BOI. So even though you're going to close it somewhere within 2024, unless honestly, I would still, and the reason that I would do that, I guess we're kind of back and forth, right? If you knew 100% that you were closing in 2024, and you had until the end of 2024 to register to report BOI, I can understand why you wouldn't. So I'll kind of backtrack a little bit on that. I can understand why you wouldn't, because you have all year to do so. If there's any chance that you're not going to close by the 31st and close, become inactive, close the business, rescind everything, then you would want to report.
I am an S Corp that lives in New York State. Do I have to file every 2 years?
No, so S Corps actually in New York State, it's very different than the federal, than FineSend. If you are a corporation and not an LLC, but you've become incorporated, you basically do not have to file in New York State. Only LLCs. As soon as you became an S corporation, a C corporation, partnership, you do not have to file in New York State.
What if I'm already filing the biannual report? Do I still have to report BOI?
Yep. So two separate things. So if you've been doing everything for New York State, FineSend is an entirely separate set of circumstances and a separate set of reporting requirements.
I received this from my payroll company. Will they keep track of everything and send the information to them, or do I need to do this myself?
Well, here's the thing. The payroll company is most likely going to charge you to do this. I can't speak on behalf of what your particular payroll company is offering. I would look into if they're doing it, for free and helping you with that, fantastic. My guess is that they are charging you. So if you choose to have them do it, if you find that it's easier, and what they're saying is they have all of that information already, so why shouldn't they do it? However, I'm going to guess that there's a fee involved. If there's no fee involved, they have all of your information. There's no reason that they can't. Um, but again, my guess is that somebody's charging you somewhere for that.
Is it correct that a corporation with a sole proprietor doesn't need to report?
So two separate things, right? So if we're a sole proprietor, meaning that we are the business, or we're an LLC or a corporation. So if you are still reporting as a sole proprietor, to define sole proprietor, using your 1040 tax forms, and as a if your sole proprietor is a family childcare business, I'm assuming everyone joining us tonight are a childcare business. So if you're filling out the Schedule C, you're reporting your taxes on the 1040, you are a sole proprietor, you would not be reporting. But if you're an LLC, because a single member LLC will still be reporting right on the 1040, then you would be, because the tax, basically it's looking at the definition of your structure, yes, but in terms of taking how you're filing into consideration, that's not the case, right? We talked about if you were an LLC filing as an S corp in New York State, you would still be filing because you were you would still be doing the biennial because you're an LLC. If you're either a sole proprietorship or you're an LLC or you're a corporation.
Why do I have to make changes every 2 years in New York?
Good question. I happen to be on Long Island. Hi, New York people. I honestly, it is the rule. Our governor has enacted this rule. The two reporting requirements are completely separate. So it's two different forms of reporting: BOI with FineSen, and then New York State, the biennial with the New York State Department of Treasury, with New York State. So two totally separate things. Other states will follow. We know that. So we know that this is, California apparently on, in the works perhaps. And we do know that other states will follow. But here in New York, we have, it has hit us first. So.
Do I have to file if I'm a sole proprietor?
Nope. So if you're a sole proprietor, don't worry about it. You gave me a little over an hour of your time, but maybe you're going to become an LLC this year or in the future. And if that's the case, then you would go ahead and you'd start doing your BOI reporting.
Now I have a few Spanish questions that I'm gonna let Emily take care of here in the Q&A portion.
Perfect. Thank you, Brooklyn. And Emily, I hope that this works. Of course, you could always, if we have an issue, just feel free to go ahead and answer us in the chat. Excuse me, folks. Sorry, I didn't actually. While we're waiting for our Spanish questions, I'm just going to bring the playground screen up again. Right. So this is the QR code for our playground sponsor tonight, and we really encourage you to use this QR code or grab the link out of the chat and reach out to Playground and see what it is they have to offer. It really is wonderful, wonderful software to help your business run better. And then Brooklyn, do me a favor and just keep looking to see if we hear from Emily, because I think we were kind of, weren't quite sure how our Spanish questions were going to work. And then I'm going to advance just to let everybody know we do have a webinar, Tax Tips for Childcare Providers in 2024. Please, by all means, use this QR code. It is going to be on February 6th, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard.
While we work on the audio, we have some more questions that we can answer while Emily works on her end.
Sure, yeah, and let's see. I hope Emily is we're able to do that. So let's answer some more questions while we can. And the thing with Emily is I have her stuck in the other channel, so she'll have to message you and I in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what else do we have?
So a couple that we've already covered, but we can do them again, just for clarity.
Sure.
Do I have to report if we plan to close before January 1st of 2025?
So as long as you are truly becoming an inactive business, filing everything that needs to be done to show you're an inactive business, then no, you wouldn't be reporting as long as it's within this year.
What is the deadline to submit, or do we send it with taxes?
So it has nothing to do with your taxes, right? So you're going to you're going to go to that portal, and you're either going to get the option to go ahead and to file electronically or to download a PDF, but the two have nothing to do with each other. I think where the confusion with taxes is occurring is that tax providers are ever so kindly offering to report your BOI for you for a fee. So they're saying, hey, I have that information already. Why don't you let me file for you? And it's only going to cost you whatever it is that they're charging. Who knows? Maybe they're only charging $50, and $50 you say, hey, that's well worth it. Let them handle my BOI reporting. I personally wouldn't, having done it in 10 minutes. I would still recommend that everybody do it themselves. If you feel comfortable, right? If you're comfortable with the technology of going through an online portal, of taking a picture and uploading the picture of your information. I think the reason that the tax question keeps coming up is it really seems to me that it's a lot of tax preparers who are saying, hey, we're just going to add this additional fee to your tax preparation. Let us do your BOI reporting. I think that's where some of the confusion is coming. They are two separate situations. So your BOI reporting and your tax filing, two completely different things. I just think it's a lot of tax preparers are reaching. We probably have some tax preparers who've joined us tonight. It's probably, I think it's a lot of tax preparers are offering to do it for a fee.
My business was opened as an individual reporting as a DBA. Do I have to report? What is the difference between sole proprietor and filing as an individual?
Okay, so a sole proprietor and an individual, if you're filing on your 1040 form, and you have never incorporated, you're a sole proprietor. If you've done anything to become an LLC or a corporation, then you would be filing BOI. So if you have not ever incorporated, become an LLC, a limited liability company, or have incorporated, in that instance, if you haven't done either of those two things, you would be considered to be just an individual who would not need to file for a BOI.
Um, where will I get the DOS ID number?
Okay, so if we're referring to the FineSen identifier, which is the only number that I'm aware of, that's when you go to you can go to the Treasury, the Department of Treasury, and apply there. Or when you go to the filing for the online portal, there's a box that you can check to say that you want a FineSen identifier. Has you set up a Treasury account, and you go forward from there. Patricia, if there is if I've got the ID number incorrect, I'm not sure. I apologize. I don't know what a DOS number is.
If I have two EIN numbers, which one do I use? The old one or the new one?
If I have two EIN numbers, I don't know. Okay, so here's one that I don't know. All right, so that's Angeline has that question. So Angeline, I'd like you to email me that question at team@civstrat.com, because I am not going to make a guess on this one. Please email me that and I'd be happy to find out for you.
Um, so why do I have to file every 2 years in New York if my IDs expire years from now?
Yeah, so it's just the New York State law. So two entirely separate reporting requirements. So BOI with the U.S. Department of the Treasury, one set of reporting, New York State, separate set of reporting. It's just the rule that they set.
And Jen, I believe to hear Emily, we will need to choose a channel on the interpretation
So can you just
button.
ask Emily, am I actually turning off interpretation? Or, oh, you know what? Emily told me this, didn't she, folks? Emily told me. Um, let's just try this for a second. Everybody in English, you may not be able to hear me. Emily, can you hear me? I apologize. Brooklyn, can you just chat with Emily and just see? I probably have forgotten exactly what I needed to do for us to be able to. I can hear
Uh,
you.
yes, I can hear everybody.
Sure. Yeah. So 20, so Antonella, so basically, if we have if we have started a business before the first of this year, we have all of 2024 to report. If we start a business as of the first of this year, we have 90 days to report. So we're still going to be reporting, recently in 2024. So if I started as of 3 weeks ago, I'm reporting within 90 days of having started my business. And if I start my business in 2025, I have to report within 30 days of the creation of that business. So we're actually one or the other. So my guess is that what you are, if you are an LLC, you're a single member LLC, and then you do have to report. So sole proprietor is a business that did not undergo becoming a limited liability company. Once you've done that, once you've chosen that business formation structure and created an LLC, you would then have to report. Yeah, so what we're going to do, thank you. Let's just scroll here. So here is our YouTube, the QR code for our YouTube. Um, just looking here, we have that. You know what I'll do? Let me just advance to the Spanish slide so that everyone can see that. All of our Spanish providers. This is going to be posted. I'm not sure exactly how soon, so please check back with our YouTube channel. It's going to be up for a limited amount of time. I don't know how long. So as soon as you became an LLC, in your single member LLC, as my guess, no longer a sole proprietor, then yes, you would have to report. So in terms of business structure, you either remain a sole proprietor, or if you choose to become an LLC, you can be a single member LLC, but that is different than being a sole proprietor. So yes, you would still be filing even though you have no employees. You are still the beneficial owner of a business, therefore you would have to report your information. So what we are asking is that you can certainly refer someone to the YouTube video. So it will be posted, and we do ask that you basically share the link for the YouTube video once it's posted. Yep, so you have until the end of this year, so until December 31st, 2024. Yeah, so in terms of getting the FISEN identifier, that's entirely up to you. You do need to report beneficial ownership. If it's an only business and you don't expect to be making any changes to your reporting anytime in the near future, you certainly don't have to get the identifier, but you do still have to report your beneficial ownership. That's great, Emily. Yep. So we have two options. We can, and I'm going to scroll back. I'll make everybody dizzy. How about that? All right. So option number one is that when you actually go to report, there's an option for you to choose. So when you're here at the filing system, there is an option in the very, very beginning that lets you choose if you would like to receive a FineSen or apply for a FineSen identifying number. So the BOI e-filing site, you have the option there. And then your other option, oops, excuse me, is, oops, am I going the wrong direction? I am. Where am I going here? Hang on just a second. This is in the very beginning. Sorry, everybody. All right, here. So here, this QR code will take you to the U.S. Department of Treasury. I believe that Brooklyn has put that link in the chat as well, and that will allow you to basically create an account that allows you to get a FineSen identifier. So you have two options, two different ways you can do that. Oh, very, very welcome. Thank you. Okay. Very, very good. So I'm just going to give another little push for our tax tips for childcare. So we know that filing taxes as a childcare business owner can be very daunting. There are deductions and tax credits that you may not be taking advantage of. And Gary Romano, who is the CEO of Civitas Strategies, Gary will discuss often overlooked and commonly misunderstood expenses when filing your taxes, how to reduce your risk of a time-consuming and potentially expensive audit. You'll learn tips for reviewing your Schedule C and how to determine your time-space calculation. The presentation will also include critical tools to help you prepare your taxes. So I'll just leave that up on the screen there. We're going to start to jump off, but Brooklyn, do you see anything else that we should be addressing now?
There are a couple if we just want to run through them quickly.
I have time. So if anybody, if anybody wants to hang in there with us, Brooklyn, you willing to hang in for a little bit?
Yeah, there's just a couple more. Not
Yep,
too
let's
many.
go. Let's do it.
So we have my accountant files the New York State biennial for me. Do I need to do it again when filing the BOI?
Yep, so BOI will be completely separate from New York State. Just check and see what your accountant is charging you, but it is separate. So
And then so will I need to do this twice for two businesses, or can I link them at once?
nope. So you could apply for the one FineSend identifier if you want, but you will be reporting twice. You'll be submitting 2 separate reports.
And I believe, will the federal government in New York State send out correspondence to all businesses who have to report?
I honestly don't know. I do not know. I do not know if any notices are going to go out, how many notices are going to go out. That's one of the reasons why we were trying to hold tonight, because I don't know if business owners, how much information they're going to receive without having to without having to search out information on their own.
And I believe that concludes any of our new questions.
Okay, great. Do we have anything? I see that we've got some mentions in chat also. Have we looked at both? Brooklyn, just asking, have we looked at both the Q&A and the chat?
Yes.
Okay.
We have gone through both.
Great. So, Emily, should I be moving you back over to the other channel? Oh, you did it yourself. Oh, you're the best. You're just the best, Emily. Thank you. Wasn't sure. So actually, then we're going to end our presentation this evening. I want to thank Emily for joining us. She does much of the translation for our simultaneous webinars, and we love working with Emily. And I love working with Brooklyn. Brooklyn is my coworker. She did a fantastic job helping us tonight. Again, if you have any questions, if things come up after the fact, jot down our email address, team@civstrat.com. Feel free to send us any questions that you have. If there's something that we haven't answered, if you need more information on something, or if something comes up, by all means, please email us there. I'm going to jump back over to the YouTube QR code. This video will be posted within the next day or so on our YouTube channel. Just keep in mind, we're not going to keep it up there for a very long time. My guess is probably a couple of weeks at the most. So by all means, please, find us on YouTube. For our Spanish-speaking providers, find us on YouTube. And then our Tom Copeland blog, right? So we are now the stewards of the Tom Copeland legacy, and we do update on a weekly basis. We answer questions. We are constantly adding new content and responding to childcare providers. So if you're familiar with the Tom Copeland blog, continue to visit. If you haven't been there, please use the QR code or join us at by using the website, the link. We would love to see you there. So, and I just want to make sure, I just still see hands raised. Brooklyn, anything that I should be addressing?
We do have a couple last minute questions if
Sure.
we want to hear
I'm
those.
good. Mhm.
How about if you have a corporation with a sole proprietor, do I need to report? It's not an LLC.
You have a corporation. So if you're incorporated, have a corporation, which would be either an S Corp, a C Corp, or if you happen to be a partnership, or if you have something of that nature, you wouldn't actually be a sole proprietor. So maybe this is something that particular person would like to email me at team@civstrat.com and give me a little bit more information. Because when we say corporation, we don't mean company, we mean you actually have incorporated a business.
And I believe that's it.
Is that it? All right, folks. Well, then we're going to end our presentation for this evening. Thanks everybody for hanging in there. We only went 40 minutes over. So, but I hope that everyone received some value from this. Let's just jump back. Please don't forget to visit our sponsor Playground. They would love to see you. By all means, feel free to use the link and jump on over there, see all of the wonderful things that Playground has to offer. Again, we're with Brooklyn and myself are with Civitas Strategies. We work with childcare providers nationwide. If you are basically utilizing the services of of state agencies or other agencies that support childcare, they may very well have used Civitas Strategies in the past, and certainly feel free to let anyone that you work with in the childcare world mention our name. Send our website is civstrat.com. So you also can visit the website if you'd like to learn more about Civitas Strategy.